One of the most consistent challenges that tango followers experience is figuring out how to be musical in the embrace. Because as a follower, you technically just learn how to follow what the leader is proposing. But at some point, that becomes kind of boring, right? You want to feel a bit more connected to the music and you want to feel free to express the energy that you're feeling from particular songs. So today we're going to be talking about what it means for the follower to become more active, which is ultimately what leaders are asking. And I want to kind of demystify the process by which you learn how to become a more musical follower. Now, by this point, you've heard me talk about my brand new musicality program called I'm So Tango Online School of Musicality. And I just want to tell you the reason why you really should consider joining this program now before the enrollment closes this Saturday, August 31st, because when you're thinking about being musical as a follower, what you will run up against is this question of, but how do I know when to actually do this embellishment that I'm learning? You might be going to class and learning a lot of movements, but when you get to the dance floor, the question becomes, how do I know where to put these in? And this is something that took me a really long time to do. And it was a lot of trial and error. So the thing that I found helps the most to really integrate these pieces into your dance more successfully is to have consistent help and guidance, which is why, as part of the membership, you will have access to monthly calls with me where I will be there to help you figure it out, help you clarify concepts that are not making sense, review videos of you dancing, perhaps if you want feedback on your posture or how you're expressing things, whether it's musical or not, and just basically give you more things to work with, give you exercises to do on your own, practicing different things with the music. All of that is going to be in addition to the material that you're getting already to do at your own pace. So the program is really designed to give you both elements that you can do on your own and learn, and then to provide you the support to make sure that you're actually integrating them into your dance. Now, if this sounds like something that could be really helpful to you right now and you're ready to sign up, click on the link in the show notes, which will take you directly there. You can also reach out to me with any questions. Just remember, the enrollment closes on August 31st. That's this Saturday at midnight. And now let's dive into the episode. So today's topic is actually based on a question that one of the dancers in my private Facebook group posted. And I thought it was so well articulated. So I'll start by actually reading through her question that she posted. One thing I've wondered about with following is, where do we draw the line between following the lead that's given and adding our own spin to it? Classes tend to focus on teaching new figures, not possible follower variations to the same step and same piece of music. So you end up learning how to follow a wide variety of potential steps. But then, if you follow them automatically, it feels a bit mechanical rather than interactive. It's still new, yes, because you don't know what the leader is going to lead into, but then it does feel like your only task as a follower is to not mess up what you're given. That makes me hyper aware rather than relaxing and looking for opportunities to co-create. How and where and when does a follower add to the dance? What are the things we can try when learning or that a follower can improvise with? I'm sure some of you are like, I've always wanted to know that. I even saw almost like a progression in her questioning, because some of these questions come up as you progress as a follower. So let's unpack step by step what she's asking. And I'm going to provide you with some both philosophical ways of how to think about the question and also some practical things you can do to begin to answer that question for yourself. When I first started learning tango, and I know that this is the case for many dancers, I was basically taught to follow the leader. I was not taught the figure. If somebody asked me to do the figure called ocho cortado, I couldn't do it by myself. I couldn't show it to someone as a follower. I could follow it if I was led into it. So the skill set that we are taught when we're learning to follow in tango at first is the skill of following. Now, it seems at first that it's a simpler role. It's easier to follow. You can close your eyes. You can relax. You can totally like leave your body and be somewhere else and come back and not remember anything that happened. So for people who start as followers and they train this skill of following, what ends up happening is that you can access that place of receptivity very easily, but then it's very hard to know what's really going on because we're sort of detached. So the first layer of complexity in tango from a follower perspective is this ability to just be present and follow what's being led. Once you master that, the next layer is to learn how to actually interpret the dynamic of what the leader is leading. And this is the place where we start asking the question of, where do we actually express ourselves? What do we actually do? How do we do that? How do we decide how to do that? And what does it actually look like in your mind's eye when you see that represented? What do you describe for yourself when you think of the idea of a follower being more dynamic and adding their own spin to it? What does that look like? A lot of times it will be embellishments or different types of stylizations, let's say, something that is not necessarily integral to the dance, but something that expresses something in the music. So for me, it started happening when I would see a dancer dance a certain song, and there would be something that would happen in the song, some sort of sound or a sound effect that was particular to that song. And I would see the follower that I'm watching do something specific with their foot, some sort of an adorno, some sort of an embellishment. And that catches our eye, and we're like, I want to be able to do that. That's kind of the flavor that we're talking about. That's what it looks like. Of course, we don't want it to look like, as a follower, you're just kind of going off and doing your thing. And you're kind of pulling the leader with you. Nobody wants to dance like that. Nobody wants to feel that or look like that. Our goal is to look like we know what each other is doing, that we are the same body. And I typically give this image of, imagine that you and your partner make up a cat. The leader is the back legs of the cat, and the follower is the front legs of the cat. The job of the back legs is to push off, to give momentum and direction. The front legs are the ones who sort of go out into space and land and grab and go and move. So with that analogy, just thinking about what would it be like to connect what the back legs are doing and the front legs, to coordinate that. So the leader is the one who has an idea, They're sending out particular tactile signal, and your job is to take that signal and do something with it as a follower and show something. And this is where adornos come in. And ideally, those adornos would be done with the time of the music so that it looks like the adornos are just happening naturally, right? They're not typically something even that the leader will lead. Sometimes you will use some backleading techniques to show something in the musicality. At the higher level of dancing, it's very much about dancing around this line, this very line of between following and slightly backleading. To me, that's when I follow. This is the place inside my head that I'm in, is that I'm following, I'm totally present to the idea that the leader is sending, but I'm also very active in executing it because I understand the shape of what they're trying to do, and I know the music. So the two kind of practical things that inform your ability to be able to dance like that, to gain the skill, right? One is to become aware of the actual shapes that your body is drawing when you're dancing around your partner. We're sort of typically kind of detached from our body. We're not aware of what the body is actually doing. We're just feeling it. So to understand the geometry of the actual shapes. Another way of saying it is, I think about tango as being yoga for two people. And yoga is all about these shapes that you're taking on in the body. And you take the shape and you hold it for a little bit, and then you move on until you take another shape. And tango is kind of like that. Tango is a exploration of dynamic shapes, dynamic movements that happen over and over again in different combinations. So when you as a follower become aware of the shape that your body is taking, and you begin to understand the logic of the vocabulary, that will help you to understand where the adornments can fit in, mechanically speaking. So how would you do that? Learn the basics of leading. Just the basics. You don't have to, lead socially, but just to understand how the vocabulary from a leader's perspective evolves and what they are expecting in terms of the shapes that you will take as a follower. Quick plug here, if you want to dive into that right away, I have a series on my YouTube channel called Tango Simplified, and it's a weekly tutorial that I post on Saturdays. Check it out because I go through all of the basic vocabulary and explain why things work the way they do. So even if you don't actually start leading, just watching the series and understanding the concept will already be helpful. Now, the second thing that you really must do if you want to dance in this way, where you find a way to be active and expressive, but not backleading, you want to make sure that you know the music. Because at that level of dancing, what's happening is that you're like a musician who's getting on stage with another musician, and you're both jazz musicians, and you're going to improvise on a song. And you know what improvisation is, right? In terms of a song, you can think about different versions of songs. For example, Frank Sinatra's New York, New York versus that same song by someone else, right? There are different versions. So you're going to have your own version that you are going to dance with your partner. It's the same song. You've danced this song a million times. But with this partner, on this night, at this milonga, it's probably the very first time you're going to dance it like this. And your job as a follower is to dance this specific song with your partner in a new way. You're doing the same movements, you're doing, the same patterns, but you're improvising and you're seeking to show something new, both of you, the way jazz musicians would riff off each other. And within your embrace, within the touch, there's a lot of that push and pull and give and take. And for me, the way I feel it when I dance with people of this level, it's very much that we're passing the lead back and forth on this very, very micro level that's happening really, really fast. This mostly happens for me with dancers who know both roles. When I get to dance with somebody who understands both roles, it's just this state where it does not matter who's leading or following. We're both listening to each other and we're both ready to step in and guide the direction. It's a really fun place to be. So let's look at the second part of this question. Classes tend to focus on teaching new figures, not possible follower variations to the same step and same piece of music. So you end up learning how to follow a wide variety of potential steps, but then if you follow them automatically, it feels a bit mechanical rather than interactive. It does feel like your only task as a follower is not mess up what you're given. So I want to speak to that place a little bit because I was in that place for a really long time. And it's a very frustrating place to be because you're not actually enjoying dancing when your success in this particular tanda is contingent on you perfectly executing the steps that are given to you. It ends up feeling really exhausting. Even when you do great and you don't mess up, I almost feel like, oh, thank God I made it. And I want out. I want to break. Because it's like so much pressure to perform. And I'm kind of hypersensitive to dancers who, for some reason, cause me to feel that way. And I noticed that even though I might enjoy the dance with them technically, and that might be fun, I won't seek out another dance with them. So no, you don't want to exist in that place where all of your attention is just based on perfectly following the leader. And I think when you're first learning tango, it's a phase where, yes, you're focusing on that because you're kind of learning the mechanics, and it's kind of a marker of your progression, right? Like when I first learned finally how to follow a boleo, oh my God, I was so relieved because it was such a mystery to me for weeks when my teachers would show it over and over and over again. And I could not feel what they were talking about. And when I finally got it, it was like, wow, okay, I can now relax. I'm an advanced dancer. So there is that kind of trajectory at first, but eventually it has to phase out of that. And I would say, at what point does that phase out? Well, possibly when you can follow a boleo, if you can follow the cross and stay within the line of dance and follow just some of the most basic movements. I think at that point it's a good time to phase out of focusing on just following the leader and now move into that exploration of what are the actual shapes that you're dancing. Get to know your body as an instrument for the song. Find out what this instrument is capable of, like what's comfortable for you, what kind of movements come naturally, what kinds of movements do you really like doing. And then when it comes to your musical exploration, a lot of times people get very confused and lost as to like, what is musicality? And this is so complex and I'm still a beginner. I can't really think about musicality. I need to learn all the vocabulary. But I'm going to really simplify it too, because if you haven't noticed, I'm really into simplifying things because life is difficult as it is. Tango is already so complex. So, however we can simplify it, I say go for it. So, here's my way of simplifying musicality at this point for someone who really doesn't know anything about the music. You really want to learn how to express yourself with the music, and you just don't know where to start. Think about a song or songs outside of tango that you really love, that make you want to move, that make you want to dance. Okay? It's a song that when it comes on, it doesn't matter where you are, you start dancing. You want to turn the song up. It just makes you that joyful. Okay? Imagine yourself dancing to that song. Imagine how it feels in your body, how you would be singing with the words. Maybe other people would be singing it with you because they love it so much with you. Imagine how free it makes you feel, that you know every part of the song. You know when that solo is coming in. You know when there's that beat drops. So imagine that sensation in your body and how fun that feels, how connected you are to the music. That's what musicality is. Okay, that's the experience of musicality in the body. And everybody has experienced it because we all, to some degree, love music. I guess there are people who don't like music, but I've never met a person who doesn't have some sort of musical interest. And us dancers, especially, we have a lot of musical interests. So you now know what it feels like to be musical. And your task is to find the equivalent of that in tango. So your task as a follower is to clock which orchestras make you feel the best. Which ones feel like you're transported into a different dimension and you feel so connected to your body and to your partner. And it's the orchestra that gets you the most compliments when people say you're the most musical. You want to find those kinds of songs. And parallel to that, of course, you will know a set of adornos. You know, adornos is something that interests people right away. I mean, I remember embellishments classes maybe 6 months after I started tango. I was already taking embellishment class. I already wanted to make all the embellishments. So you have a set of embellishments probably under your belt, and I bet you just don't know where to put them in, how to actually use them in the song. So the way you can imagine this inside your mind is like you have this experience of musicality that you already know in your body. You have a reference, but it's kind of far away from tango. And then you have these movements called tango adornos or embellishments that you know how to do, but you just don't know how to do them to music. And you're trying to bring those two experiences together. You want to feel that excited to the music that you're hearing. Like you want to feel that much connection to the music, and you want that connection to effortlessly express itself through these embellishments. That's your goal. It's not about learning where, in which part of the song to put this embellishment or memorizing. You know, I've tried that too. I did that when I was learning some sort of musicality thing at some point early on, and I was like trying to count it out. I was like, okay, every time I do an ocho cortado, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I didn't do this thing. It doesn't work that way. Okay, it doesn't work. It has to come from your body. The embellishment is almost like the icing on top, right? You got to have the cake. You got to have the structure. You got to understand why the embellishment is even there. Right? It doesn't exist in isolation from the rest. And that's how we see it. We see the embellishment as this action of the foot. It's the loudest part of the movement sometimes. It's the firework, right? It's the thing that we want. But you got to have the basis for it. You have to understand the pathway that the body took to produce it, as well as get the timing that matches the song in such a way that it makes sense. I tell you, nothing marks you more obviously as a novice, as a beginner, as when you just do embellishments by themselves, just as part of your vocabulary. Like anybody who just does adornos for no reason always looks like a beginner, because it's a marker that there's not an understanding of that connection, that the movement actually must somehow relate to the music. And it's just a pathway to mastery for some, right? You got to start somewhere. And hopefully you learn with time to actually harness that energy and learn how to place these adornos correctly. But some dancers don't get there. Some dancers don't. They don't ask the question. They're happy where they're at, and this is the level that they are happy to stay at, and they enjoy their dance. And that's also there. So it's up to you. But if you're a dancer who's asking these kinds of questions and you want to understand and you want to get to that level of dancing where it's not about just following, and it is about this sort of alternative dimension experience of musicality in your body, the building blocks for that will be very practical. And they do take time, but I don't think it's anything that you have to set aside time for separately from your dance time at the milonga, right? So when you're dancing at the milonga, make it a point that you're keeping track of the music, for example, that you're really enjoying, that really makes you kind of open up and feel your body in a new way. So that you can always do. That's something you can always go to and just turn that on, turn that switch on in your brain. Start now. And when you go out dancing next time, just clock it. What's the orchestra that you danced to that really made you feel that you were very musical and that you wanted to do a lot of embellishments too? The second thing, of course, as I said, you can check out online materials. You can look up videos. You can look up my series. The other thing I would highly recommend that you watch videos of dancers that you really, really want to dance like. It doesn't matter their level. It doesn't even matter if you can physically reach their level. So if you are really excited about some sort of stage dancer who does a lot of flips and you yourself are not planning on doing flips, don't let that hinder you. Still watch them and watch for the gestures, for the lines, for the expressiveness of their movement, and see if you can just let that imagery wash over you and by osmosis absorb that into your body. I think it really works because neural mirroring is a thing where, when we watch something, our brain sort of copies that in our body. So even though you might not physically right away be able to do something that these dancers are doing, your imagination goes there and your brain will absorb the things that you need because you're enjoying it. So hopefully at this point, I've given you enough philosophical framework to understand sort of how you need to work on your following if you want to, take it to that next level, which I think everybody does. I think ultimately everyone wants to dance in this way where you're not limited by this feeling that you just need to execute everything correctly. You want to feel free. You want to express yourself. You want to feel creatively satisfied that you are connecting to something larger than yourself. That's on everybody's agenda, of course. So I want to give you a couple of other pointers that helped me quite a bit. I talk a lot about this first one. It's making videos of yourself dancing. I mean, I can't stop talking about it. I know it's a very painful, it's like pulling teeth, but making videos of yourself dance really can accelerate your understanding of where you need to put your adornos. Why? Because when you see yourself executing the adorno with the music, you will be able to see more clearly if the adorno actually fits. So I've learned this lesson so many times. I remember one time I performed at a local milonga, and it was the D'Arienzo. This was years ago. And, D'Arienzo is like super staccato, super fast kind of music. And I put in all of these little details, all of these little adornos and foot taps because I was just, dancing the way I usually dance. And when I saw the video, I was like, oh, that looks terrible. So even though my adorno that I thought went with the music and it felt like it went with the music, when I saw the video of it, I was like, ugh. And I don't think I ever shared that video because I was like too embarrassed. So videos are a great way to give you that feedback, very, pure, objective reality that this is what it looks like. And then you can make a decision of whether it's working or not. It'll be very clear to you whether it's actually appropriate. Now, the other suggestion I have is definitely one that helped me the most ultimately of all the things that you can be doing as a follower. The more you dance, the better. In my case, I actually went into dancing different things. So I started exploring other dance forms and did a lot of fusion dancing, some blues. I attended different dance events where there was different kind of dancing. I did some solo dancing as well, ballet, a little bit of modern. It doesn't really matter what kind of dance. I think just the task of immersing yourself in different types of rhythms and musical structures, it's just a very good way to condition your brain for music. Honestly, I used to go to ecstatic dance a lot. That was a really great phase for me. And back then I felt really limited in my body. I felt very self-conscious. It was really difficult for me to even like extend my arms up over my head if I danced. I felt like everybody was looking at me. And it was a very therapeutic practice for me to go and just move and ask myself the question of like, what do I want to do to this music right now? And in tango, of course, you're going to do a very small percentage of what you would do in an ecstatic dance. An ecstatic dance, you're free to do whatever you want, right? You are by yourself. You can move your body. You can jump around. You can let the music move you. But when you're dancing tango, you're very narrow in your choice, right? There's very small percentage of your movement that you're going to utilize. But it seems like when you give your body a lot of freedom and a lot of possibility for movement and let your brain be washed with lots of different music and lots of different rhythmical structures, when you come to tango, it actually makes tango easier. And that's what I found for me as a follower. I kind of stalled in my learning as a follower. And I found that place that she's talking about where it was like, okay, I'm just following. I don't feel myself actually connecting to the music. And then when I went into practicing other dance forms and exploring other forms of music, that's when it seemed like something opened up for me that was just not there before. It was like I kind of allowed myself to feel other possibilities, and that helped me to push to the next level. So if you can do that, if you can allow yourself to explore other dances and go to some events that have other musical genres and dance to those, like if you can go dance tango to them, it doesn't matter. But just that challenge is really nice. Now, for some of you, I know it's like, nah, I'm really not, I don't think so. Maybe you're okay being at home and you're okay dancing to music by yourself, but you don't necessarily like the idea of going out and being social. So, what you can do is dance to a lot of music by yourself at home. Take some of the structures of movements that you've learned from tango, like adornos, like ochos, boleos, ganchos, put on any kind of music, and then dance and try to find a place where you can do those movements. And make a video of that and watch that. And I guarantee you, it's going to look silly. It's going to look like crap at first. You're going to hate everything about it. I did. I hated videos of myself for a long, long time. But it will give you that information, that piece of information that you need to know of what does the Adorno actually look like? Am I structurally doing it the way I want it to look? And am I doing it in a way that fits the music? Because you're guessing, right? When you're first doing an Adorno and you're doing it by yourself or with the partner, you're guessing. You're just throwing something out there to see if it sticks. And you must guess a lot. You can't just do it. You can't know ahead of time. You know, I think the motto for me, for any creative endeavor, including dancing tango, the motto is do it before you're ready, fully knowing that you might fail, and then do it again. Like, do it before you're ready to do it, right? The Adorno, this question of Adornos and where to put them, you're not going to figure it out and then do it. You're going to have to do it a lot, and you're going to do it wrong a lot, and then you're going to deduce where it needs to go. And the best way to do it is when you can assess yourself, not when somebody else gives you the feedback, especially with Adornos. Adornos frequently, most of the time, is not something that the leader actually can lead. It's something you choose to do. So you can ask the leader whether it feels okay to them when you do it. But whatever the leader tells you is just going to be in reference to how they feel it, not necessarily in reference to how it looks, whether it actually works with your body, with your shape, with your range, whether it's comfortable, whether it's graceful. Those things, you have to see them, or you have to have somebody else look at you and tell you, which is typically how you learn in a class. But you can do it on your own by watching a video of yourself and actually seeing if it works or not. So these are some of the ways I recommend that you begin to develop some of your own spin as a follower that you can add to your dance. Let me know how this is landing for you. Do you have other ideas? Do you have any particular questions about some things that I was discussing? And I look forward to bantering with you next week. Until then, ciao.